Coming up on today's episode, as Hollywood closed their 2023 award season last night, I decided to take a look back to last year, 2023, and the year that was for horror.
I like you.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Watching the Oscars last night, I got inspired to do something different with today's show. We're going to go back to 2023 and check out the very cool horror stuff that came out that year. As you guys are well aware, I love my categories, and today is no different. We have a bunch of categories with my top 6 favorite movies in that category. Without further ado, let's check out last year's awesome horror movies. Let's start it off with the next of kin category. This category is for franchise sequels, and we had a bunch of them last year in 2023. Go through my favorite 6. Saw X was a pleasant surprise and revitalized Tobin Bell and that character. So much so that it was, I think it was the highest box office Saw movie. So you know we're gonna get a Saw 11 at some point, and then a 12 and a 13 as they do. So Saw 10 was actually a fun movie to watch. Tobin Bell got another layer of development, another layer of charisma, another layer of just things to do. And this movie was awesome because of that. It was a pleasant surprise. Who knows what you walk into when you get into a Saw movie? It was definitely not what anyone expected because of the Saw games being so later on in the movie. That being said, though, I really had fun with Saw 10. Next up, Scream 6. Scream 6 came out early on last year, and to be honest, it's not my favorite. It is one that needs to be on this list because it's Scream, folks. It's Scream. It made a bunch of money, so much so that they wanted to make a Scream 7. Things got a little bit rough around the edges on the back end there, and things have to be retooled. And we'll see what we get with the new Scream movie. But Scream 6 is here because it had the potential, right? It moved the Scream franchise over to a new location. Once they got to New York, we got some fun stuff going on there. It wasn't as good as I expected it to be, especially with New York City. You could probably find a bunch of things to do that would have livened up the action in this thing, honestly. And it sucks, too, because the guy behind the Ghostface, the stunt guy behind the Ghostface, played him really stiff, like Jason was played in Chapter 4. So that's why I wish it was a little bit better, but it does belong on this list because it was a fun movie and it is Scream. It continues a long franchise of movies that have delivered on quality. I'm hoping the next one we get is actually, better than what we got with 6. 5 wasn't that bad because it introduced all those new characters. I don't have a problem with the characters. I think 6 could have been executed a lot better. Next up, we have on this list is VHS 85. This movie, again, VHS is an anthology movie with a bunch of horror shorts stitched in properly. This one, I should say, was done properly because the previous VHS movies lacked in quality throughout all the shorts. VHS 85 was awesome. It started with high peak quality and it ended with high peak quality. So I really recommend checking that one out. That came out on Shudder. It's one of Shudder's most successful releases of last year. Highly recommend checking that one out because it has some really cool shorts in there that if you know me and you check out the Morgue, the official CorpseFeed podcast, we talk about Imaginary in depth, and we talk about concepts that should have been short films instead of feature length ones. VHS gathers a bunch, I think it was either 4 or 5 really good shorts and stitches them up rather nicely for us. And we get VHS 85, super high quality anthology there. I recommend you guys go out and watch that one. Next up on the list is Evil Dead Rise. The potential was there. I'm a fan. I can't say I didn't like it. I do like this movie. I do wish it was taken a little bit more over the edge, being that it is an Evil Dead movie and it did get the rated R. They should have gone all the way and really, done more cheese grater stuff, done more eye tattooing stuff. That stuff was really cringy and should have been focused a lot more and amped up a lot more. That being said, Evil Dead Rise did have that creep factor that you do look for in these movies. I really enjoyed the whole spin on Necronomicon and how that all got activated. It was through a record, a DJ record playing instead of, the old school way of you reading this text that you have no idea how to pronounce. So it made a lot more sense of putting an audio on there. Also, I really dug the abomination at the end. I wish the CG in that was a little bit more crisp because it could have led to a lot more cooler visuals if they did light it properly and execute that well properly. It has its really cool moments. I think it is a really good introduction to the Evil Dead universe if you have not been there yet. Next up, Exorcist the Believer. I like this movie. It wasn't terrible. A lot of people really did not like this one. I thought it had a potential story there that could have been milked better, especially with the dual possessions that hasn't been done like ever on screen. I thought that gimmick was really cool, and that's what brought me into the theater. I did not like where they brought in the mom from the original Exorcist. I forgot what her name was, but they brought her in for, I don't know what reason. If you had Linda Blair already cast and in the movie, why not just bring Linda Blair in, as Reagan and not just her mom? I didn't understand that, but I wish they would have focused a lot more on the dual possession. I thought that was really cool. I thought the girls who played the Possessed did a really good job with that, and they should definitely be commended on their acting. I think they were the highlight of this movie. Everything else was kind of but overall, I think it was a pretty watchable movie, and it could have been way worse. Last on this list is Insidious, The Red Door. Not my favorite sequel, but a franchise sequel nonetheless, and one that I didn't expect to get, honestly. The Insidious franchise has its ups and downs. I didn't expect to get Red Door. It was Patrick Wilson's directorial debut, so I was kind of excited about that. He didn't disappoint, but he also didn't really impress. I can't blame him. The story was a little weird, not the greatest, but I do like the fact that they are trying new things with this Insidious story because they wanted to finish the original story that started with the family, right? So I do like that they tried to do something different in this one. And that has been the next of kin category. The next category on the list is the DOA, the Dead on Arrival. Folks, this is a category with my least favorite horror movies of the year. And as you know, the magic number is 6. So let's get it going. Right off the bat, folks, Skinamarink, if there were to be an award for worst movie of 2023, in my opinion, Skinamarink would get that, and then the award for that award as well. Man, this is a concept that, as I mentioned before, there are certain concepts that work best as a short film. This is one of them, folks. This is, as a feature film, and with the length of a feature film, it is unwatchable. I don't understand how they were able to put this length on this kind of idea. It doesn't sustain itself. I understand the filmmaking aspect and the techniques and the very retro kind of scare tactics being used, especially with the visuals and the upside down stuff. I get that. It looked really cool and it was effective, but getting an hour plus of this is not what you want, folks. Not what you want at all. Another movie I'd stay away from is The Nun 2. Man, what a disappointment. This is garbage, folks. Nun 2 was not good. Nun 1 was not good. I don't understand why they would make a second one, honestly. It's very confusing when you have a really bad part 1 and you feel like making a part 2 thinking you can make it better and not improve the story by any way. This movie was not good. Stay away from it. Another stay away from it is It's a Wonderful Knife. I walked into this movie expecting a little bit more quality, a little bit better story. What I got was a terrible story with very poor kills and a disappointed Arturo. And I wasted almost 2 hours here. People were praising it for the story. I checked it out. I was not impressed. I thought the story was very poor and very poorly developed. The characters weren't good. The kills weren't good. All the dynamics in the movie were off. As I mentioned in the morgue talk when we spoke about this movie, it feels like they didn't know what tone they wanted, so they just kind of let everyone do their own thing, and it really comes off that way. This movie was not good. Another movie that was not good, and you should not waste your time with, is The Meg 2. Man, really? We're doing this again? Really? The Meg 2? The Meg 1 was just like, okay, I guess if you have some extra money you want to throw out, sure. But then we do it again, and it's even worse than the first one. And that's just boggling the mind, folks. I don't have anything else to say besides that. Meg 2 was super whack. Next up was a movie that I hoped would have been better, The Pope's Exorcist, man. I really wish this movie was decent. I thoroughly enjoyed Russell Crowe's performance in this movie. I loved his little Vespa and his accent and everything Russell Crowe did was just awesome. Unfortunately, the movie around him was not, folks. This movie was subpar. The possessions were subpar. I think there was one moment early on in the movie that was pretty decent, but then, it was compounded by other stuff that didn't look good. It didn't resonate well with the story. It didn't resonate well with me. For that, folks, it's another stay away from it. I think you can catch this one on Netflix if you do want to give it a whirl. And if you do watch it for Russell Crowe. He was pretty awesome in it. Next up and last on this DOA category is Bad Things, another Shudder release here. Folks, this one is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I still don't know why I saw this movie. Oh, I remember. This is what I do. I watch horror movies for you guys so you guys don't waste your time with this. And this one is a big time waster. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the acting in it. It was pretty poor all around in terms of filmmaking techniques and execution. So big stay away from all these movies in this category, folks. Stay away from them. They're dead on arrival. The next category is The Bag. The blood and guts, folks. This is why we're here. This is what I love. I love blood and guts and horror. I'm a big gore hound. I've gone on record to say that many times before. I love violence and the brutality in horror when it's done right and when it makes an impact. These movies on this list definitely made an impact when it came to gore and horror. First up, Saw X, obviously. Saw movie has to be on this list, right? And Saw itself is a franchise known for its gore, for its blood, all its body parts, a lot of it practical, a lot of it excellently executed. Saw X is no different. Unfortunately, we get that later on in the movie. I wish we had a little bit more of that, but it did provide the cool games and the cool bloodletting that, we're used to seeing in a Saw movie. That's why it ended up here on this bag category. Next up, Project Wolf Hunting. If you guys haven't seen this, man, go check this one out. It is a bloody, 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 bloody affair. Some crazy, bloody action, brutal martial arts, bloody, bloody, bloody. It's very bloody. That's what I can really say about this movie. It had some really cool action shots and action sequences in this movie, sprinkled with an extreme amount of brutality. The action was obviously elevated because of it. There are a lot of scenes that are just excessive kills, like, they stab a person a lot of times knowing that, okay, this person's done. They're dead for it. You can stop stabbing them now. But, they just kind of go for the excessive overkill and the excessive blood. And it resembles a old school, like a Japanese horror flick with all the blood. But this is a Korean movie. So it was nice to see a lot of the Japanese inspiration here in this movie. A lot of the blood squirting from everywhere. It was truly a bloodbath, folks. Truly, truly a bloodbath. And I think you can catch Project Wolf Hunting on Screenbox, I believe. If not Screenbox, then maybe you can catch it for free on one of the horror streamers somewhere out there. But check out Screenbox. I think it's on there. Next up is The Very Evil, When Evil Lurks. This one here is definitely one of the most evilest movies, I think. Is that a word? This is one of the most evil interpretations of violence I've ever seen in a movie. I think that's the way to best describe it here. This movie is gory, it's violent, it's brutal, but just in a very mean-spirited way, very French extremity way, impactful, but very nihilistic. The movie has a very dark tone to it. It truly is When Evil Lurks here. The amount of gore in this movie is excellent. It definitely is shocking when you see a lot of it, man. It's there's some moments here that will just be like, what the H am I looking at here? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's evil. It's legit evil. It earns that name and a spot in this category 1000%. You can catch this one on Shudder. Next up is Thanksgiving. This one just dropped on Netflix recently, and it was directed by Eli Roth and released for the Thanksgiving holiday. And it has some really cool practical gore in it. The opening sequence where it was a Black Friday trampling of sorts by a crowd, that looked really cool. That was crazy. There's a turkey basting kind of scene there that I wish we had more of, but it looked really cool, really impactful. The kills were always done well. I'm not a huge fan of Eli Roth, but I do give him his credit. He is a master of that gore, and he does just that here in this movie Thanksgiving, folks. It's now out on Netflix. You can catch it anywhere you get your Netflix streams, folks. Next up on the bag is Malum. Malum is a rehash of the movie The Last Shift by the same director. It's like an updated version, you can say, a bloodier, more violent version, darker version too. This movie has blood, is very violent. Unfortunately, it's shot very dark. I wish it had a little bit more lighting to it so you can actually see all the awesome practical effects that go into this movie. It's another bloody affair like Project Wolf Hunting. Yeah, this one was interesting. The movie was kind of boring up until it got to that very gory part. After you get into that gory part, you stick around for a while and you kind of stay there, and it's definitely impactful, and it leaves a memory because of just the violence you see on screen. And lastly, folks, the last movie in this category is Suitable Flesh, another H.P. Lovecraft movie. You can also find this one on Shudder as well. It's a fun movie. It also has a lot of gore in it. There's some awesome stabbings and decapitations in there. The very awesome practical execution was done in that movie, and I really recommend it. It's a fun movie to watch. It has some camp to it, so expect the gore to be a little campy, but it works. It works in the framework of that movie, folks. Go check out all these movies. A lot of them you can stream now on Shudder. Last but not least, folks, the Golden Toe Tags. These are my favorite horror movies of 2023. Let's get right into it. Talk to Me. This was my favorite of 2023, and for all the reasons I stated, the gore in it, the brutality of some of the scenes in it, the story was excellent, the practical makeup was fantastic. It just overall, it is just a very tight and properly executed horror movie. It is very impactful. From the very first possession scene, I was in, folks. I was in, and I highly recommend checking out Talk to Me if you haven't yet. I don't think it's anywhere to stream for free, so you might have to wait on that, but it is worthy of a rental. Buy the movie. It's definitely worth it, and the Philippou brothers did a great job with this story and the execution of this. Next up is David Slay's Dark Harvest. This one, folks, not a lot of people have seen. I am glad I was able to see it at the tail end of last year, and it was a fun horror movie. It had a lot of unexpected gore in it, a lot of unexpected practical stuff. There's a freaking monster in it, like a legit practical monster. And Sawtooth Jack design is awesome. I really like the fun pumpkin kind of old school Halloween design it has. It's really effective. The movie is fun. It flows rather nicely. It has a really it has a campy vibe to it, but it works very well with the monster and the overall story. I really recommend checking out Dark Harvest when you get a chance, and hopefully it'll be streaming somewhere soon. Next up is a Shudder original movie, When Evil Lurks. Again, folks, brutal. The title is definitely correct on this movie, because evil is lurking throughout the entirety of this reel here, and it is very memorable. I, for one, think I love my gore, but I, for one, think it was a little too excessive. I wish if we did get that kind of gore, I wish we got a little bit more of some exposition of the possessed and how it gets people crazy and doing evil things. But man, not a lot of complaints besides that, honestly, with this movie. Go check out When Evil Lurks. It's definitely worth a Shudder trial, folks. Next up on this list, Godzilla Minus One. I loved this movie. If you had not had a chance to check out Godzilla Minus One, I highly recommend checking it out the first chance you get. It is an awesome movie and the best Godzilla I've seen on screen ever. It tops all American Godzilla movies by far. It topped its own Shin Godzilla movie from several years ago. And this one, man, memorable Hollywood blockbuster, like through and through. It is a Hollywood blockbuster through and through. I'm glad it won the Oscars for best visual effects. It deserves it. Godzilla looks fantastic, and I cannot praise this movie enough. It's pretty perfect, honestly. The script is pretty darn perfect. The visuals are great. As mentioned, they won an Oscar for the visuals. The score and the music is fantastic. The cast is great. Everything about this movie is a freaking perfect 10. I definitely recommend Godzilla Minus One. The minute it hits streamers, rent that bad boy ASAP, please. Next up on the Golden Toe Tags, It Lives Inside. It Lives Inside is another movie that I think was very, very successful and came out of nowhere, just like Talk to Me. I did not expect much of It Lives Inside. I honestly thought at first it was going to be a VOD type movie. Boy, I was wrong. It definitely deserved the theatrical release, and I'm glad it did. It shined a light on Duda's filmmaking and his story. It shined a light on the actress as well in this movie. She does a great job. The story was fun. It has a monster in it. Not much else you can ask for, especially when you get a freaking monster in it. Legit monster action. The movie is catered to a younger audience, so it's a great gateway horror movie. Go check out It Lives Inside. It's streaming on Hulu now. Last on the Golden Toe Tags, but not least, was my first favorite horror movie of 2023, folks, and that was Peacock's original Sick. This movie dealt with a pandemic kind of story, and honestly, it came out of nowhere. The movie was about 80 something minutes, and it hit you right off the bat. It introduced the characters real quick, but then we're rolling through, man. The characters were fun. The story was fun. It was very relatable. Especially, in the times that we live in now. The horror action was great. There were some very cool kills here, some very good practical effects used as well in this movie. Very good movie, folks. And for a while, it was the best horror movie of the year until we got to the summertime when we got to Talk to Me and stuff. So Sick was done very well. It was very well executed. Honestly, it deserved a theatrical release, but because it got a streaming release, it deserves even the more credit. Because folks, you see, you can drop a streamer and it be very good. There are a lot of streaming garbage out there, but Sick was definitely the one that set the bar very high for streaming movies. Like Fresh did the year before for Hulu, Sick did that same thing for Peacock. And folks, these are my favorite 6 horror movies of 2023.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for joining me on this special episode of Scary World, where we close the book on 2023 and move on to 2024, hopefully with better movies than we've gotten so far. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. Don't forget, most importantly, to subscribe to the channel. Tell all your friends, your buddies, your family, and your pets to come to their YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to check us out on all the social streams. We are on Instagram, X, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook. Anywhere you have your socials, we are there. Do not forget to check out the official CorpseFeed podcast that drops on Tuesdays. Anywhere you get your podcast streams, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any desktop podcast stream, we are there. You can also check out The Morgue on this same YouTube channel, and there's a whole archive for you guys there to check that out. We have 183 episodes of The Morgue for you guys to check out, to like, subscribe, and share those, folks. Join us on Wednesday for another episode, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.
I just wanted to say goodbye.